Hello YouTube, this is Landon of Redhead Takes, and today we'll be going through another NFL division preview. Today we will be attacking the NFC South with one of my favorite teams, the New Orleans Saints, because Drew Brees was my favorite player of all time, and I still enjoy watching them. If you're just stepping through this video, welcome. Consider watching it fully, give it a like, comment, share, and subscribe. Really looking forward to those subscriptions, and the likes are really one of the only things to help me get further traction on YouTube and get my videos recommended. So give it a like if you like what I'm doing here. Now, as always, when I do these divisional previews, I like to start out by teams going from first to last. Now today I had some trouble just because I think it's pretty obvious the Saints and the Buccaneers will be fighting for that first place spot. And the Buccaneers have lost some players recently, over the offseason, and also with the loss of Ryan Jensen. I'll go into that. But they got the false god known as Tom Brady back, who pulled a Jesus and retired, waited 40 days, and announced his comeback on NCAA Sunday. So what a jackass. Just waiting for that time to interrupt somebody just to make himself self-important. And we'll see. I'll go over all the teams as usual, but especially those two teams, because honestly the Panthers and the Falcons are not interesting at all, and the Falcons are just going to be garbage this year. Going to be very hard to watch. I feel for you Atlanta fans, but I don't at the same time, because Atlanta sucks as a city. So anyway, let's get to this. Well, let's start out with the Saints. I'm putting him first, but I'm not sure how it's gonna end up. I think the Saints will be really good, although it remains to be seen. Well, let's go through it. Adding this offseason, added Jarvis Landry, brought back Traquan Smith, brought in Kentavious Street as free agent coming from San Francisco, should be decent on the defensive line. Bring back PJ Williams. Tyrann Mathieu should be really good in that defense, along with Marcus May. They brought in the absolutely terrible Daniel Sorensen. I don't know why. He's just was the worst part of that Kansas City defense for a couple of years, and probably the reason why they lost a couple championship games. And they drafted Chris Olave and brought in Trevor Penning in the draft too at offensive tackle. Now the past couple of days, apparently Trevor Penning has been kicked out of practice a couple of days because he's too competitive, and I'd like to be on his side, because he said he's playing hard. But I mean, come on, you gotta get along with your teammates, and there's a time for going hard, and there's a time for just understanding when to stop. And who knows? Maybe he's on steroids. I don't know, because he seems to have a lot of anger issues. So I really like Trevor Penning. I think he was a little bit of an overreach, to be honest, because he's coming from a Division II. No, he's coming from Northern Iowa. But he just looks like a monster out there, and he could really realistically replace Teron Armstead in a meaningful way. And Chris Olave, love the draft pick. They had to go after a receiver, and it's pretty obvious during the draft that there was a run of receivers starting, so they had to get what they could get. And I think they picked second best receiver in the draft. I think so. I'd go with Jameson Williams, but honestly I don't think Jameson Williams plays this year, or not until the end, but I'll get into that when we talk about the NFC North. But yeah, Saints this year should be good, all things considered. I guess we'll go over the losses. We'll see Malcolm Jenkins to retirement. Lost Marcus Williams to Baltimore. That really sucks at small safety. But I think they'll be able to replace him with Matthew. Losing Teron Armstead, of course. They just couldn't pay him. So their offensive line should still be fine. And Armstead has been injured so often the past couple of years. It's almost like he just wasn't a piece at times. losing Will Jordan Humphrey, who was one of those cool little gadget players, and Quan Alexander at linebacker. I think they should be able to weather some of the hits on defense that they lost, because that defensive line is still going to be good. Losing Marcus May could, losing Marcus Williams could be an issue, I think. He was such a stalwart for the last couple of years. But we'll see what happens. Saints, I think this year they probably go 11-6 perhaps, or 10-7, maybe even 12-5. I don't know. That might be a little generous, but that defense is going to be really good all year. I'm really not worried about their defense. Their defense should be fantastic, like it has been. It was literally the reason why they had any chance at the playoffs last year, because boy, that offense last year for the Saints was awful. Although it should be better from what I've heard in training camp so far. Michael Thomas is coming back and he looks great. Now, again, it's training camp and it's in short shorts, so I think we have to remember that people make a big deal about players in shorts and not in actual pads in the game time. So we'll see when it comes to preseason how ready he is. If he does play the preseason, I don't know. He's one of their studs, so who knows if he plays. But I'm excited to see Michael Thomas finally back. It's been a long time. We really haven't seen him since his record-breaking season two seasons ago, so it'll be exciting to see. But maybe we'll finally be able to judge Jameis to see if he's really the option quarterback for Saints. Honestly, if you ask me, I don't think he is. He has a great arm, but again, he's just so inaccurate, and I think he's kind of dumb. So I mean, I'm glad they finally gave him the job and are going to use Taysom Hill as as a gadget player, a quarterback sometimes, but I don't think he's going to be quarterback very often. I think they're trying to convert him to tight end, so I guess I'm just glad that quarterback competition is over. I think the Saints should go after a quarterback next year. Draft's supposed to be deep next year for quarterbacks, so they should go after their quarterback before they get rid of Jameis Winston. But anyway, the Saints for this year should be around 11-6, 10-7. Now let's go to the Buccaneers, the most hated team I've ever seen in my life other than the Patriots. Just whatever team Tom Brady goes to, I cannot root for them because Brady is I just tongue-in-cheek say he always soul to soul. I mean, I honestly believe that. The guy is just, he can do no wrong to anybody. Even though, reminder, he cheated on his pregnant girlfriend with Giselle, so people don't remember that, but yeah, he's a scumbag. Yeah, I know Aaron Rodgers is on my team, but he's never done anything like that. But anyway, getting back Tom Brady, should make them just as good as last year, maybe a little less because of some of the pieces they lost. Bringing back Fournette, brought in Kyle Rudolph, who we'll see if he has anything left. Brought back Julio Jones. Now I'm sure he'll get a couple touchdowns. I think realistically Julio Jones will be the third or fourth wide receiver, maybe get 4 or 5 touchdowns, maybe 6, maybe a little less than that. I think is a reasonable expectation if you can stay healthy. Bringing back Carlton Davis not a big deal. Bringing back Godwin not a good deal. Really needed to do that. Apparently Godwin is back even after tearing his ACL right before the playoffs. See, again, teams like the Buccaneers, players that have terrible knee injuries and other injuries like that, just magically come back even better than ever. Other teams have their best player go down, they're never the same. And they had no first round pick, so we'll move on. Losing Gronk to retirement, Ronald Jones finally moved on. Losing Alex Kappa, they lost a lot in their offensive line. Losing Alex Kappa, Ali Marpet to retirement, JPP, and Ndamukong Suh, Kevin Minter, Jordan Whitehead, who was kind of a dumbass, and then they lost Ryan Jensen. Now it remains to be seen if he'll be back for a playoff run this year, but from all accounts I've heard, he's going to be out at least a couple months, probably 4 or 5 months. So even though he injured his knee back in July, especially for offensive linemen, I can tell you, especially after watching the Packers the past couple years with David Bakhtiari, if you have an offensive lineman and he has a knee injury, it is hard to come back from. Just from a man that size, no matter how hard you work at it, it's just a difficult injury to come back for anybody, let alone an offensive lineman who's always constantly moving, being pushed backwards by the defense, trying to block. It's one of those injuries that is just devastating to an offensive lineman, and especially since they lost 2 other pieces of their offensive line. Now Tristan Wirfs, it's still going to be incredible. He's just a all-pro left tackle. He's one of the best in the league. At such a young age, he's already great. He's a great player. I wish somebody else would have drafted him, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess. Yeah, the Ryan Jensen issue will be tough for them to swallow, I think. And again, those losses that they've had on defense, now some of them were kind of old. They were role players. Well, I mean, Jason Pierre-Paul and Ndamukong Suh still had some moments, but they weren't the big members of the defense. So their defense should still be great. Shaq. And whoever else they got, I forgot some of their players they have, but all I know is that their defense is really good. And finally, that finally their a-hole coach moves away. Of course, he nominates Todd Bowles, the black defensive coordinator. It's nothing about race, but it's just, I think he conveniently retired just so Todd Bowles could step in. And to be honest, I think Todd Bowles should be fine. He probably does deserve a second chance, even though he was with the Jets. Although, let's be honest, we gotta give him some slack, because the Jets, when he was there, weren't good. He gets one more opportunity, I suppose. Maybe this will be his opportunity where he'll be there for a long time. It remains to be seen. About Buccaneers, I mean, even though I talked about the Saints first, I think more realistically the Bucs win it. Even though the injuries and the losses they've sustained on that offensive line, I think they'll still be really good, because Tom Brady is the ageless wonder and he can do no wrong. But hopefully this is the year that he finally drops off. Buccaneers 12-5 or 11-6, maybe 10-7. I don't know. I think I'd like to see them in preseason action to see how their team is doing before I make any further judgments. But I think 11-5 and 11-6 is a reasonable option. So realistically, I think the Bucs win first. I think it all come down to those division matchups between the Saints and the Buccaneers. Saints had their number again last year, which is completely out of left field. Never would have expected that. I remember in my Pick'em league when I picked that game, I think I did pick the Saints. I don't know why. It just, for some reason they've had their number the past couple of years. It's not in the playoffs, mind you. Of course not. They can't beat him in the playoffs because nobody can beat Tom Brady in the playoffs unless some dumb walk or some really bad play. I mean, that's the only time Tom Brady's never made the Super Bowl is because of some dumb walk play or something. The guy can't do anything wrong. I hate him. I really do. I mean, I guess I can respect for his just sheer ungodliness and everything, but yeah, Tom Brady sucks. Fuck him. Bucs probably finishing first, but the Saints could win. It all comes down to those divisional matchups because I think both teams will beat up on the other teams in the division. And finally, let's move on to the Panthers. Bringing Baker Mayfield should be good for them, although apparently Sam Darnold is doing better in training camp, so I guess we'll have to wait for them to go into preseason, watch them play some games. Bring in Deontay Foreman, who filled in great for Derrick Henry in Tennessee, should be good for them. Bringing back DJ Moore on a contract extension. Xavier Woods, who is he just gives up a lot of yards. Safety. Bring in Johnny Hecker, good punter. Corey Littleton at linebacker. Made some key re-signings. I mean, honestly, the biggest move for them is bringing Baker Mayfield, although remains to be seen who wins that battle at quarterback. And they brought in Ike Ekwonu at offensive tackle with their draft pick. Should be some finally good stability on that offensive line. I think it maybe take time for him to grow into the role, but he should be a good piece moving forward for them. And then let's see, they lost Daquan Jones on the defensive line. Hassan Reddick was a double-digit sack leader for them. AJ Bouye, corner, and Stephon Gilmore at corner. Traded away Stephon Gilmore, who, to be honest, was fine with Carolina, but to be honest, he's just really, I don't know, although he's looking great with Indianapolis, don't think he ever really fit in with Carolina. Wish the Packers would have gone after him, but it's another conversation for another day. The Panthers are probably not going to be very great. Again, I don't know, maybe 6-11, maybe 7-9, or it could even be 5-12. I don't know. They're not going to be very good. It all depends on how Baker Mayfield adjusts to their system, if he's able to find his way after just being absolutely jobbed by the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield deserves an opportunity, but he'll have to earn it, and it'll be pretty embarrassing if he loses out to Sam Darnold because, oh boy, he was not great last year. He showed flashes in the beginning, ran for a lot of touchdowns, but I don't know why. I think Sam Darnold was just another one of those quarterbacks that was just permanently damaged from his experience from New York, and just, yeah. It'll be nice if a quarterback in New York for the Jets can finally find his way, but I don't know if that'll ever happen again just because the pressure in the media is so awful. But Baker Mayfield, I think he should win the rollout, I think, but who knows. Yeah, Panthers, again, aren't going to be very good, but they're still going to be better than our last team in the division. Going with the Atlanta Falcons. Oh boy, this is going to be a bad year for them. I like the Falcons to probably be the first overall pick next year just because they got nothing. But let's go through it. Bring in Marcus Mariota, quarterback. It's going to be their starter quarterback for a couple of weeks. I know everybody makes that joke that he's like starting quarterback for like a game or two and then he gets injured. It's real unfortunate what's happened to Marcus Mariota. I loved him coming out of college, but it's just, yeah, another one of those injury casualties. Bringing Cordarrelle Patterson back, one of their only good defensive bright spots last year. Bringing back Jordan Matthews on a contract extension, just a good stalwart on their offensive line. One of the good things on their offensive line. Bringing in Rashaan Evans on a 1-year deal at linebacker. Casey Hayward on a 2-year deal. I don't know, Casey Hayward has been pretty decent wherever he's gone. Bringing back Grady Jarrett on an extension. And then they drafted Drake London, wide receiver, first wide receiver taken this year. He's coming off that injury, so we'll see how good he is, but I mean, he's going to have so many opportunities to do well this year. He's going to be the starting option at wide receiver, obviously. He's going to have so many opportunities to succeed because literally the Falcons have nothing on offense besides Cordero Patterson. And I don't know what they're going to do if Mariota gets injured. I think they brought in A.J. McCarron, who, again, another one of those quarterbacks who just when you think he's going to get that chance to finally show that what he can do, somebody comes back from injury. And, yeah. I like A.J. McCarron. He seems like a good guy, but, yeah. For whatever reason, I see A.J. McCarron starting at some point this year just because Marcus Mariota has not been able to stay healthy at all during his career. And let's see. They lost Calvin Ridley, of course, because of the stupid gambling suspension. I went over this in my other review, which you should check out or right above me, for where I go over the Deshaun Watson suspension and how suspensions in general in the NFL are just dumb. They've just given up really all their authority because they can't decide what's a good suspension, what's a bad suspension. And I mean, now, like, I'll just mention this quickly so I don't have to do another video, but since the NFL appealed the decision, and apparently now they're looking for an indefinite suspension for Deshaun Watson after they got a bunch of shit. So really, again, they're ridiculous with this, and they really lost all ability to really suspend players for meaningful offenses. Yeah, Calvin Ridley is going to be a big loss for them. He probably shouldn't have gotten a year, but I guess it is in the guidelines, and they have suspended players in the long past for gambling during the season. Most notably, Paul Hornung and Alex Karras in the 60s. Both got year suspensions. But yeah, he's going to be a loss, of course. Matt Ryan, trading him away. Foye Oluokun going to Jaguars on a lucrative deal. Who knows what he'll do there. Losing Fabian Moreau at cornerback. When I looked through the list of guys they lost, there's a lot of pieces there. Like, they were there last year and they didn't make a difference for the Falcons, so don't think they'll really be missed all that much. Lost Dante Fowler, who has just been bouncing around. Yeah, I thought he was finally going to make his spot in Atlanta, but it just didn't work out. But yeah, Falcons are... I don't want to say they're going to not win any games. I don't want to go that far. I think 3-14 is reasonable. Maybe even 2-15. I don't think they win more than 5 games. And maybe even 5 is generous. Maybe 4 is their ceiling. 4-13 could be their ceiling. 3-14, 4-13, 2-15. I think all of those are reasonable, possible standings, expectations. Yeah, the Falcons are not going to be good. But again, let's get back to my final ranking. I think Buccaneers are probably 12-5, 11-6. Saints 10-7, maybe 11-6. Again, I think it'll come down to the battles between the Buccaneers and the Saints for first. And then the Panthers at 5-12, 6-11, maybe even 7-9. Who knows? It all depends on Baker Mayfield. And the Falcons, again, anywhere from 2-15 to 4-13 are all possible. But yeah, the NFC South should be a good division, at least at the top. between the Saints and the Buccaneers. But again, honestly, I think the Saints and the Buccaneers both can make the playoffs. One would be the 7th wildcard team. But, yeah, that's been my rankings for the NFC South. Again, if you're just passing through, give it a like, comment, share, and subscribe. I know I hate saying this, but likes are what help me gain traction here on YouTube. So consider giving it a like. And as always, you know where to find me. twitchtv.com/redheadtakes, where I've been streaming Red Dead Redemption 2 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Assassin's Creed Odyssey stream is in the afternoons between 1:30 to 4:30, and my nighttime streams of Red Dead Redemption 2 are anywhere between 7 to 9:30 and 7:30 to 9:30. So you can find me on Twitter, or twitter.com/redheadtakes, and redheadtakes.locals.com. Locals, again, is a free Facebook alternative. You don't have to pay me at all or support me financially. You just need to create a free account. Although I should mention, for Locals, if you're trying to go to create an account on Locals, do it on a browser and not on your phone. So those are my sites. And as always, have a great day, and God bless.